protecting marine mammals, but at a cost. While Americans love to eat crab and lobster in the summer months, seafood caught in cages can put other ocean creatures at risk, including whales. Entanglements in fishing lines have contributed to humpback whales being on the endangered species list. And while there may be a solution, as Elizabeth Cook reports, not all fishermen are willing to pay the price.
San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf, known to many as a tourist attraction, is not a place that embraces change. Here, a small fleet of crab boats is operated by fishermen who catch crabs the same way their ancestors have caught them in the waters outside the Golden Gate for over 170 years. The technique means they use lots of long lines of rope, and that's a problem. Some 922 endangered humpback whales have died or were maimed since 2007 as a result of the ropes entangling them. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That's why Bran Little is experimenting with a high-tech way to bring his crab cages up from the ocean floor.
This drawstring comes off of it, it just slips off.
So you're really a pioneer for your industry using this pop-up gear.
I don't know if I'd say a pioneer. I took the gamble to try to make it work.
A remote-controlled pop-up balloon-like device signals the crab cage on the ocean floor to head to the surface.
It has an acoustic release on it. We have a transducer. That transducer sends a signal to this release unit.
The military developed this to deploy weapons and sensors from the ocean floor. But for fishermen, spending another $50 a cage in an already cash-strapped industry is a hard sell.
What you have to remember about fishermen is it's probably one of the oldest professions in the country. And when you go back over the decades, these guys have just lost after lost after lost after lost. So, there's very little opportunity left.
And this new pop-up gear has its critics. What have you heard from your fellow fishermen who say, hey, we shouldn't be using this stuff?
I was one of the biggest critics of it, so I set out to prove that it wouldn't work. And I kind of had to eat a little bit of crow because after I did it, I said, wait a minute, this might work. There might be something feasible here.
For 3 years now, Bran Little heads out at midnight under the Golden Gate Bridge to retrieve his catch. He says he's not injured a single humpback whale. The pop-up technology he's using is an experiment sponsored by California's Department of Fish and Wildlife that regulates the crab fishing season.
This year we shortened it given the heightened risk of migrating whales coming back up the coast.
Chuck Bonham is the director of California's Department of Fish and Wildlife.
You're the guy that gets to decide when the season begins and when it ends. What goes into making that decision?
The thing the whales eat for food, small little fish called krill, those krill moved more inshore and the whales followed them. They're swimming much closer to our shore, right where our fishing men and women put their gear. That has meant every year we've been entangling whales.
Bonham cut the season short by 2 months this year, but Bran Little is not affected. He can keep fishing and hopes his investment of $25,000 will pay off by catching more crabs without injuring whales. For CBS Saturday Morning, I'm Elizabeth Cook in San Francisco.
It doesn't seem like that's a lot to some people out there, like for a business, but it is to these fishermen. It is to the fishermen. I love that Bran Little admitted that he was trying to prove them wrong, but then he proved that these things actually work.
They work. At least if you're looking at it from the whale side, they definitely work.
Maybe somebody else can find a way to help on some of the costs there.